electric fleets. Highland is on a mission to make electric vehicles more accessible and affordable for schools and communities everywhere. Learn more at highlandfleets.com.
Programs operate at much higher enrollment numbers and have a higher capacity, and people are more interested in those than home-based because families need childcare, right? And the home-based program requires a parent or a caregiver to actually be present during services. Margot Simone is the Vice President of Early Childhood Programs at Children's Aid.
Particularly in our Harlem site, we definitely see where we're not able to fill these home-based slots that we have. And not that many families in need of a home-based programming because most of the families here are working families.
Childcare providers say there are other factors for why some programs may be under-enrolled, especially at centers, and that's because it could be cumbersome or sometimes demeaning, right, for a family to have to demonstrate that they're eligible or sort of poor enough to qualify. And there's a worker shortage issue, too. A Head Start program may not be able to open if they can't retain and attract enough staff.
Karen, just a couple of seconds left. If you don't qualify for a Head Start, what other options does a family have?
There's a city voucher program that also is based on income that can help. I mean, there's 3K and pre-K like we talked about, and the option that's worked for many people in many years before, finding a friend or a family member to help you out while you're at work.
That's WNYC's Karen Yee. Karen, thank you. If you want to read more details about how you can apply for a Head Start, check out Karen's story on our news website. That's Gothamist. Karen, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Support for WNYC comes from SUFS, a new musical coming to Broadway this March about the radical suffragists who fought for women's right to vote and changed the course of history. Produced by Hillary Clinton and Malala Yousafzai. More at sufsmusical.com.
Interest rates are still supposed to come down this year, just not now.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com. And by Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks delivers what's next in cybersecurity innovation to protect today's digital way of life. Learn more at paloaltonetworks.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore, in for David Brancaccio. The Federal Reserve left interest rates unchanged at its meeting this week, as expected, although it is still penciling in 3 rate cuts this year. At yesterday's press conference, Fed Chair Jerome Powell emphasized that what the Fed does next depends on the data, especially on inflation. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer was at the press conference and joins us now live. Hi, Nancy.
Good morning, Sabri.
So inflation came in higher than expected in January and again in February. Is that why the Fed is holding interest rates where they are?
Yes. And remember, Sabri, the Fed has been raising rates to dampen demand. The theory is lower demand pushes down prices. Chair Powell said the Fed isn't going to cut interest rates until it's absolutely sure inflation is headed toward its 2% goal.
So what kind of data does the Fed need to see before it actually goes and lowers rates?
That's what we kept asking Chair Powell yesterday. Of course, he's watching overall inflation data, but he's also keeping tabs specifically on housing inflation, which isn't coming down the way the Fed expected. Rising wages can fuel demand and inflation. Powell told me he's keeping an eye on that, although he doesn't think higher wages were a major cause of inflation.
Wage increases have been quite strong, but they're gradually coming down to levels that are more sustainable over time. And that's what we want.
The Fed itself released some data yesterday, its latest quarterly economic projections. What did we learn from that?
Well, they cut their projection for the unemployment rate. They now expect much higher economic growth this year. So maybe the thinking is an economy that strong can handle higher interest rates for longer.
All right. Thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Luxury brand Hermes is facing a class action lawsuit for allegedly violating antitrust law and how it sells its popular Birkin bag, which starts around $10,000. Eric Gordon is a professor at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business and joins us to talk about it. Hi, Eric.
Good morning, Sabri.
So this class action lawsuit against Hermes alleges that it's doing something called tying. Can you explain what tying is?
In antitrust law, tying is when a company has an item that everybody wants and an item that people don't want so much. They tie the desired item to the undesired item. If you want the desired item, say a Birkin bag, you have to buy something you really didn't want. Say lots of other Hermes stuff. That's the essence of tying, and that's what's being alleged here.
Why is that illegal? Why is that an antitrust violation?
Tying is an antitrust violation when a company uses its monopoly power in the desired item to get more market power in the items that it's selling that aren't so desired. And certainly Hermes has a monopoly in Birkin bags.
All right, Eric Gordon, professor at the Ross School of Business. Thank you so much. Let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up in the 3 to 9/10% range, with Dow futures up 111 points.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Bitwarden. With cybersecurity a top priority for business, the Bitwarden Password Manager offers multiple authentication options for single sign-on for enterprises. Learn more at bitwarden.com. And by Disney, announcing that Disney will host its annual meeting of shareholders on April 3rd with a board of directors election. Learn more about voting at votedisney.com.
And now to The War Below. That is the title of a new book by veteran Reuters reporter Ernest Scheider, and a reference to the conflict over the metals in the ground below us. They are critical to national security and the transition to green energy. One electric car can contain 176 pounds of copper, but mining these metals poses enormous challenges for the U.S. Ernest Scheider joins us now for more. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good to be with you.
So the transition from fossil fuels to clean energy is going to require a massive expansion of global mining. How much of an expansion are we talking about here?
We're talking about radical shift in how we really think about energy in our country and in our world. Globally, the amount of copper we're going to need to produce in the next 25 years will be as much as the entire world has produced in history. So that's just sort of one data point that just shows the sheer need for all of these materials.
What difference does it make whether these metals are mined here in the U.S. by American companies or somewhere else by somebody else?
Part of what I explore in the book is that some countries right now are willing to use their control of these critical minerals as economic weapons. And so that's one reason to be thinking about doing it more domestically or regionally. Another is the climate. If we're going to focus on that, then we need to be producing it more locally in order to not basically increase carbon emissions by taking a metal from one part of the world, moving it across an ocean and then back across an ocean for our consumption.
What are the sides or the values that are at war with each other here?
Many of these projects face opposition from indigenous groups or from conservationists or from people that just don't want a mine in their land that's been passed down through generations across their family. And I want to chronicle the opposition as well as the support on these specific projects so that the reader gets to determine for her or himself where they come down on these sticky issues. Are there some places too special to mine? And if we decide to have mining, what are the standards by which we would allow mining in those places?
Yeah, I mean, even at the level of a local community, you have communities divided over what to do.
Yes, some people are very supportive of extractive projects because they would be great for the energy transition. Others are supportive for economic reasons. You know, they would love to have jobs that come in. And then you have opposition on the other side that's just as earnest and just as passionate about blocking a project. One of the key learnings or themes that I explore in the book is that these issues are not necessarily black and white or binary. You know, there's often multiple angles and people have multiple different perspectives for why they support or oppose a project.
Ernest Scheider is a veteran reporter for Reuters and author of the new book, The War Below, Lithium, Copper, and the Global Battle to Power Our Lives. Ernest, thank you so much.
Great to be with you.
In New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.